And since this one has a little more complexity to it, I'm going to do it as its own little segment, and then I'll work on the door and whatever else. But this one I want to have separate so I can kind of go run through it with you. You may not have some of the same supplies, so kind of work with however you're able to do so. So I pre-prepped some of the pieces so it doesn't take quite as long because the ironing part, because I'm actually going to iron my curtains, um, which will save me some time in some ways, but takes a little extra time in others. So let's grab a camera around. So yes, I have moved myself up to my ironing board so that way you can see what I am doing with these guys. So now the first part of this instructions gives me all the different pieces. So I've cut out each of the individual pieces to go along with it. As you can see, this is what our big window looks like. So we've got this, which is wood. So that's our wood. And then we've got our paper. They call it paper, but it's not really paper. It's more like cardboard. And I pre-scored it, as you can see, just like as I'll show you in the instructions. And I just used the tip of my my tweezer to do so. And then this little guy. And then we have each of these, which I ironed flat because they were all crinkly. And I trimmed them. So I've already trimmed them and everything else. I might have to trim them down just a little bit more. I'll find out once I fold the ends. So the ends get folded and the sides get folded under, and then I'm going to iron them to do this, to get them into that ripple format, and then we'll start putting all the pieces together. Now I did pre-cut the membrane to fit. I just kind of took and traced the top with the Sharpie. It's not even going to be seen once it's together, so yeah. So let's go to the next section here. So first thing it says is it wants us to fold down the top and the bottom. And as you can see, there is a right way and a wrong way with the fabric. So it wants us to fold down 10 on the top and 10 on the bottom. And since it's going to line up with the top and the bottom, I can kind of go like this, cheating a little bit, and just fold over those two ends. As you can kind of see where it's going to fold right along here, it's going to fold right along there. And I'll do it on both sides. So we'll do that quick. Yeah. All right, so set up the side for a second. So first thing I do is I'm going to iron down this top. Now, if you're like me and you want to try to remove a little bit of that bulk, you could always trim the corners too. Now that I've got one end, let's line that up, and I know I'm going to fold this up here. And pull it just past just a little bit. I'll do that on both of them. Sorry for the wiggles. Ironing boards are not necessarily the... It gives it a nice edge too, so it'll have a nice finished edge once it's in the window. Pretty good either. I'll put a little guy on there to show. I try and make sure it's square enough. And I trimmed it square already after I pulled it out. Top and into bottom. So then we get this, flip it the other way. You can always double check, you know. Doesn't hurt. Double checking is a good thing. Yeah, tops and bottoms all done. Tops and bottoms are done, and now we folded each of the two sides, just like instructions say. Instructions say 10 millimeters on each side. And remember 10 millimeters. Let me a little measure here. Where did I set it? There it is. So 10 millimeters. You can tell here, 10 millimeters. Here to here is 10 millimeters. So each little line is a millimeter all the way across. So that's approximately how wide I need to make it. And as you can kind of see, it's pretty much outside a green line to inside of a green line, and that is 10. And if you're doing the same thing, the width on each of those is So yeah, 10, 10. So outside. So we're gonna fold it like so. Yeah, set that aside. I don't want to iron my cardboard pieces. It gives it a cleaner front view, because what you're going to see through the curtain, through the window, is actually going to be this side. You won't see that side. All right, and so the knot next. So 10 from that edge is going to be just shy into that green. Yeah, get off there. And it doesn't tell me exactly how big each of the other folds are that construct the rest of it. But I'm going to assume they're probably going to be 10, so that way it's equal. So that we'll do back and forth, kind of like when you were a little kid and made a fan. I don't know how many of you guys, I always loved doing the fans. And then I would color them in rainbow colors. All right, and then up to that edge. So do that side. Again, I'm sorry for the wiggles on my camera. I'll get that nice and flat. It's much easier ironing it first versus trying to do it another way. And again, it is shy of that. Da, 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 da. Nice. All right. So now each of those sides have been folded 10, and these are actually a little more than 10 because I wanted to make sure it sits inside the frame because we want it to be equal with the frame. So, and then like I said, it's going to be this direction. So what you're going to see is this pattern. So yes. All right. And now it's going to get folded back and forth. Just like when you're a little kid and used to do a fan. That is how we're going to do it. And I do have little clips to help hold it. Now, with ironing it, it's going to hold a lot better than if I were to just fold it back and forth like a fan, because it's going to be held in place with that. So, and from what I can tell, so we're going to kind of do it back and forth just like a fan. Because we want it to kind of open up in the middle once we get it glued in place on the finished piece. So we're going to fold this over. Now, the more layers of fabric you go through, the more heat it takes to actually penetrate all the way through those layers. So I'll flip it and go the other way on it for the next piece. So I'll fold it, and then I'm going to flip it over so that way more heat is concentrated and keeps that fold a little more true. Watch your fingers with the iron. I don't know how many times I've burned myself on an iron. Not fun. I want to keep this down. Put that back in there. There. Stay there. Don't come out. Ouch. The fabric itself's hot. Okay. Line that up. And we're ironing it down. Da, 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 da. It's very hot. If you want to make smaller folds, you are more than welcome to do so. But as you can see, it's pretty even. All right, that's going to be the last one. Watch that doesn't curl up on me or get stuck in a hole, which it can do. And I do love these old irons. If you go someplace and you can pick up a nice old iron, as long as the bottom of it is pretty decent shape. This one only had one thing that was melted on it. I'm not sure what it was, but it's pretty decent. And now, one of the ways you can help to keep things to stay is to make it cool. Kind of like when, you know, like a blow dry your hair with hot heat. And we're just going to kind of hold it in place like that. And we'll set that aside. And now we'll do the other one. Both sides. One side. Flip it over. On this side. If you're watching right now, awesome, because I know this isn't probably going to show up on my actual page until a few hours after it's completed, just because that's how YouTube processes things that way, unless I pre-record. Living in the country, things don't process quite as quickly. So I'm glad that you're able here to join me today. Somebody's writing. Sorry, I can't see. Oh, okay. It's actually it's the Miller's Garden house. So it is a kit. And this is the curtains that actually go into the Miller's Gardens house. I can show you a quick picture of what that completed piece actually looks like. I kind of have more of the information in the description. And I should actually have that as part of the beginning, so that way it can be more easily identified. That over here. I can leave that on there for just a second. And so what it actually ends up building is this when it's done. And the thing that I'm working on right now is actually the big window that's in the back. So, but that is the Miller's Garden house. It's a miniature. It's a miniature kit. And now we're just going to kind of hold this in place while this cools. I don't have another little tiny one, so we'll go with the next size up. All right, I'll set that aside. Okay, got that part. What did I do with my camera here? All right, so now that we've got our curtains ready, let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see. I've already pre-trimmed my membrane, the clear membrane that came in the kit, which is this guy. It's hard to see it because it's see-through, but I trimmed it to fit on the piece. So, and here is our wooden piece that it gets placed on. Kit comes with everything that I can't say everything that you need, because you're going to need to make sure that you have a few other items that don't come in the kit, like an X-Acto knife or another type of knife that can trim pieces, and also jeweler's tools. So if you don't have jeweler's tools, you can buy some relatively cheap sets. Otherwise, you can get individual pieces. So these are some of the jeweler's tools that I use for forming parts, as well as little nippers. Those also came in the jewel kit. So those are some other pieces that you need to be able to complete a project like this. And I do it in sections because it does take a long time to go through everything. Come in. So, and I can't necessarily see my comments real good, so yeah, I might have to respond after, because my stand obscures my comment section. All right, a little bit down the middle. All right, right, so we're going to attach this on here. And it should be just inside the edge. I said I pre-cut it to fit. So, and that is the window bit. All right, and then the next part now is the back. As you can see, that's this, and I've already scored it using the tweezer ends. Not sure how good my lighting is here, but you can kind of see how the bricks are scored on the surface. And so then after that, you want to make sure that you fit the next piece. This goes on top of that. The membrane is in between the layers, and if you can kind of see it on here, it shows little here, zoom in a little bit. It shows little red dotted lines. There aren't red dotted lines on here. That is just to tell you that you want to make sure that you line up the edges of the glass with the edges of the piece as best you can, because they're not exactly the same size. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to place a little glue around the outside here and here, same as I did for putting the paint on. Eventually I get set up so that way I can interact a little easier with people when they come on. But yeah. Glue all the way around. Ouch! Yeah, burn myself on my iron. See, told you I'd burn myself on my iron because I put my hand in. Put my hand out too far. All right. Come on. All right, and all righty. Now we squish, 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 squish. Try my best to make sure everything lines up. Try to keep most of it off of the membrane in between, but it's not perfect, and the glue's not perfect, but it still works. All right. Next thing that it's asking for, you did it in the right spot, is to place that on there. That is just another piece of that cardboard paper. So, and that's going to go on the bottom across there. All right, set that aside for a second. And I am going to put the glue on this itself. So if you're just joining me, welcome. And hopefully you enjoyed watching my build. And you'll be able to probably see it in a couple hours in its entirety, so that way you'll be able to see it from beginning to end. But yes. So that's that part of the window. Of course, what I had already pre-done were the curtains, which are going to be the next step in placing those on there. And the side that actually is seen through it is going to be the checkered side. And it goes on the back side. So I'll show you the instructions here, so you can see it. And you can see how it fits together. Sorry, I'm trying to get glue off my fingertip. So finish this part. Okay, we got that. And now we're over to adding the curtains. So we glue the cloth to the back. And if you didn't watch earlier, I actually ironed it. So each of these have been ironed. And by sitting there letting it hold in place, it's kind of like when you freeze your hair when you're not ironing, but blow drying and want your hair to stay in place. So I'm going to take off the clips here quick. Let me zoom back out so you can see a little better. There. As you can see my iron, I had to watch myself because I did not turn that off yet. All right, so these are going to get glued to that opposite side. So the glue is actually going to go on this side of the part. And then I'll use the clips again to hold it in place. So we're going to slather on a whole bunch of glue because it is holding material in place and the material is porous. I'll make sure I put plenty on there. And I have a love-hate relationship with this glue that comes with the kit because it leaves lots of stringies, and so then I've got to go back when I'm done and remove all the stringies. Okay. But it sets up pretty fast, so I can move fairly quickly through a project. All right, so we got our curtains. I'm going to flip them over. And kind of place them in the space. Get them lined up. It helps having them pre-ironed because then you can kind of arrange them a little bit without them completely doing whatever they want. And then I'm just going to squish it down and clip it. And I'll be able to do a little bit of arranging after it's sat and dried. So. Yeah, get in there. Sometimes it's hard to hold with little clips. Squishy, squishy. And so then when you see it from the other side when it's assembled, you see the green curtains poking through. So that needs to dry. And the next thing that gets built, and I still have to pull all the components and everything else out of that for that, will be the door. So set the big window off to the side, our big picture window, and the next piece that gets built is going to be the door. So there's several different components that go into the door. So we've got wood pieces, white paper, paper cutouts, and a big gold bead, and a small gold bead. So I'm going to stop this and I will come back and we'll build the door after I gather all my components. And thanks for watching me. All right, give me a sec.